For years, Mike Rowe was the face of hard work and grit, the man who rolled up his sleeves and showed America the tough, dirty, and often overlooked jobs that keep the country running. But behind the humor, charm, and signature grin of the Dirty Jobs host lies a story few truly know. What seemed like a life of adventure and success has been shadowed by moments of deep pain, loss, and heartbreak. This is the untold and truly tragic side of Mike Rowe's life, a story that will change the way you see him forever. It was initially called Somebody Had to Do It. It's now Dirty Jobs. The show has 8 seasons. Mike Rowe became America's busiest TV personality. He took the nation's dirtiest and riskiest occupations. This show damaged his body, although many spectators didn't know. He had shattered bones, burns, lost fingernails, and stitched cuts. Over 300 episodes, Mike Rowe's body suffered. Mike Rowe's career and life were nearly devastated by these accidents. A toll begins. Mike Rowe was appointed to host Evening Magazine, a local CBS show, in 2002. James Reed, his producer, sat across from him at Grumpy's, and they knew they had a problem. The irony of their employer wanting something different made Rowe laugh. Television executives continually demanded new ideas, but they wouldn't authorize anything that hadn't worked elsewhere. Evening Magazine was dying. The audience was decreasing and half asleep, and cancellation loomed. So if they thought hard, they had nothing to lose. After bouncing ideas, they created one of Discovery Channel's biggest hits. However, they had to live the next 24 hours. When Rowe finished Paper Lion by George Plimpton, the idea lingered with him. He imagined a host who dived into situations without training or qualifications and made it up as they went. After hearing his proposal, James loved it but insisted on keeping it local. Stay away from superstars and watch average people work. Conversation waned when beers arrived. Since both guys shared similar views on work and celebrity, they naturally started chatting about the forgotten folks who did the jobs nobody wanted, jobs nobody would mention at dinner parties. After choosing Somebody's Gotta Do It, they gained consent to start filming the next day. The first section showcased Anthony and his strange car at the San Francisco Zoo. Anthony's job shaped everything afterward. Anthony was a truck driver, and they had no idea times would fly by. About 25 segments were filmed in a year. Evening Magazine gained viewers and local press. Several segments were Emmy-nominated. An artificial cow insemination proposal won. Nearly everything collapsed. CBS changed management, which affected how things were done. Management determined Nasty wasn't fit for Evening Magazine's growing audience. Rowe received new orders to create something new. After recognizing this, Rowe found a pattern. He made a risky step that led to rejections, but finally led to something bigger, since he thought his parts deserved a bigger audience than a local San Francisco show could deliver. He sent Good Morning America a clip of the fake cow inseminator episode to urge they hire him to develop recurrent programming. They never answered, although he guest-starred on that show years later. Every network Rowe sent the tape to rejected it. He received his favorite rejection letter from Comedy Central. Our fall schedule does not allow for a talk show in a septic tank. Rowe persevered when others would have given up. Rowe eventually approached Discovery Channel co-workers from years before. They then urged him to resign CBS if he wanted that path. Rowe had to find a reputable production firm, host and co-produce, and let the company pitch the program to the network. Rowe followed half their advice and called Pilgrim Films and television owner Craig Piligian. Craig was a founding producer of Survivor and presently produced Discovery's successful show, American Chopper. Rowe believed Craig was the best candidate because Craig owed him one. Craig hired Rowe to host Worst Case Scenario for TBS in 2001, which lived up to its dreadful moniker. Craig met Rowe and taped him getting too close to hundreds of dairy animals. He acknowledged that America might want a reality show, sans production editing. Craig worked to get Discovery to order Somebody's Gotta Do It after that filming. The network nicknamed it Dirty Jobs during construction. This went from 7 to an hour. Discovery wasn't convinced yet. After 3 pilot episodes and a year of focus groups, Discovery ordered the series. Their gamble would pay off unexpectedly. In March 2005, Rowe left Evening Magazine. In November 2003, Dirty Jobs screened 3 pilots before returning as a regular series on July 26, 2005. The show aired 8 seasons until September 12, 2012. Discovery created Dirty Jobs Down Under, an Australian set finale. On July 7, 2020, Dirty Jobs Road Trip debuted. The original series returned on January 2, 2022, for 2 more seasons before ending on February 2, 2023. The European version was hosted by former Manchester United goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel. The series won 5 Primetime Emmy nominations, including 3 for Outstanding Reality Program and 2 for Cinematography, and what started as a concept in a bar had become a global phenomenon. In every Dirty Jobs episode, a worker or team treated Rowe as a full-time assistant. He accomplished every work despite discomfort, risks, or filthy conditions, often getting dirty with the crew. Rowe regularly made lewd jokes while working. Since almost every job was harder than imagined, he rarely made fun of the workers. He began to admire and respect persons who took on jobs most people shunned after this realization. Dirty Jobs production. How was it? Mike Rowe was 300 feet in the air on Dirty Jobs when urged not to vomit. The window washer advised us not to vomit if you start spinning because we'll get hit. The day began with him swinging from a rope 300 feet above pavement and twirling in the wind. "You've got to be kidding me," Rowe said, glancing at the building below. The window washers laughed. They gave him a cheater pole, a long pole to reach windows you couldn't reach, to make the task easier. Rowe repeated, "Easy. I've seen easy. Not this." He had bleeding hands. The harness cut into his legs and the wind increased. He swayed like a pendulum over that 300-foot drop with every move. He had blood, calluses, and window cleaner. Sadly, they told him they were just 25% done. 1/4 remained, 3 more quarters of this horror, but it gets worse. When they stopped on a building terrace, Rowe's legs collapsed. He admitted he isn't sure he can use his legs. He had slowed everyone down, so he had to get to the bottom to complete before dark. "Which family word do you use?" Rowe asked. "Ohana?" "Ohana," they said. "Can we all find a beer down there?" Ohana means alone. "See you, Mike." The building was dropped, and he was left. But that was only warm-up. Next, dangling from a skyscraper looked easy. Rowe was in a 105-degree sludge pit with black goo as bus drivers rode pristine air-conditioned buses. "Cleaning after this takes how long?" Rowe asks. "Quite long." The reply was lengthy. Rowe was required to scoop all that black filth into buckets. A high-pressure water tool called a jet router was introduced. The person who explained it claimed water sprayed through tiny holes at high pressure might harm skin. "It can lacerate flesh," he noted. Rowe was required to squeeze 200 feet of hose into a pipe for 8 hours while the jet router blasted water through the hole. 105-degree heat for 8 hours. Rowe had lost 2 quarts of sweat and possibly his sanity by then. They ended up with 600 pounds of sludge in a barrel. "Going where?" Rowe asks. "To a Newark incinerator. Burning for energy," they replied. At least this suffering yielded something. The steel cover and bolts sealed the barrel. A customized dolly was used to load the 600-pound barrel onto a truck. The pit was cleaner afterward. Unfortunately, Rowe wasn't. This is the thing. Sludge pit wasn't the worst. Not even close. Cranes lifted buoys onto ship decks. Living barnacles covered this buoy. Live barnacles were new to Rowe. They were alien-looking and made awful noises. Peeling every barnacle was necessary. Rowe started with a chisel, but it took a while. Barnacles broke off in egg-shaped pieces. Something terrible followed. "That's awful," he said. "It's not bad," someone said. "It's terrible, man." "That's bad," he said. He crawled inside the buoy to clean the horn. He scraped and pushed trash behind him as he climbed inside. Once, he stopped. "Is this a job?" he inquired. "Definitely a job. That's a lousy job, but it's a job," they said. From buoys to planes, dirty work continued. A fuel leak in an airplane wing required crawling into the fuel tank. Fuel fumes filled the area. The crew connected ventilation before entering to work. Despite fans, the wind ballooned Rowe's suit. He squeezed through the gap, saying, "This is absurd." The rivets inside needed old sealant scraped off. This caused the leak. A new sealing coat was needed afterward. The sergeant with him volunteered for this task then. "Lost a bet?" Rowe asks. After he finished, leaving was harder than entering. Rowe escaped, despite twisting his body in unnatural ways. Unfortunately, additional work awaited. Entering another fuel cell and crawling under the bladder was necessary. Rowe called that insane talk. He went under the bladder. Unfortunately, the jet bathroom was overhead, causing the liquid to trickle, untying the parachute wire while soaked in toilet water. "How do you untie wet parachute wire?" Rowe asks. They advised washing hands before eating chicken nuggets. This $2 billion plane was kept together by string and rubber, but the day wasn't over. One more job awaited. The worst. Clean boiler interior. Outside the opening, Randy stood. Go in head first, like Superman. Unfortunately, Superman could fly while Rowe crawled. His shoulders barely fit as he pushed through with his arms out front. Randy had to pass him a light between his legs because everything was dark. The space was cramped. Randy stated, "You're one of the few individuals in the world to view a fire boiler." "I'm lucky, right?" Rowe said. Randy pushed a tool through tube holes outside as Rowe brushed each tube. As hours passed, Rowe tried numerous postures. He chose the fetal posture. Tragically, another calamity struck. Rowe spat and hit his only light bulb while working. He had no choice but to work in darkness. What was his choice? Work wasn't finished. Finally, he broke. "Randy, I may be done, but I'm out." Randy looked inside with a flashlight. "Mike, the interior looks nice." Rowe crawled backwards into the aperture. He was fatigued and doubting every decision that led to this moment, covered in black soot. You know what? Medea was a working boat. Someone had to clean this boiler, which produced enough steam to drive her engine at 8.5 knots. The person was Mike Rowe. It may be someone else tomorrow because these jobs don't do themselves. Someone must hang 300 feet from structures. Sludge must be shoveled in 100-degree temperatures. People must scrape barnacles, climb into fuel tanks, and squeeze inside boilers where they accidentally spit on their lone light. On nasty jobs, Mike Rowe showed up. His job nearly killed him. Mike Rowe nearly died. The Dirt Index, according to Mike Rowe, explains why dirty work is no longer respected. In a Q&A with Entertainment Weekly, he said, "We've always linked getting dirty with productivity and respect. 100 years ago, people understood dirty jobs, farming, mining, and handiwork. Everyone knew someone in that field. However, changes occurred. Manufacturing expanded, technology advanced, and financial services replaced manual labor. People are disconnected from the backbone of society. Mike stated, "We're isolated from them. We probably don't appreciate the world we'd be in without them. What most people don't get. Not even close. These professions are hard." They smashed Mike's ribs, fractured his knuckles, and lost his fingernails. Working with a blacksmith caused his biggest injuries. A blast furnace melted his contact lenses to his eyes. He thinks picking plastic shavings from your retina is a gut check. Blinking generates an annoying clicking sound. How did it happen? They used a portable furnace in the field. Despite its toaster oven appearance, it was a blast furnace. Mike requested a shot. With his gaze on the camera, he flicked the switch to reveal flames. Unfortunately, flicking accumulated gas. The flames wrapped around his head, burnt his eyebrows, and welded his contacts to his eyes. The blacksmith instantly replied it had happened 5 or 6 times. Mike realized it then. The camera mistakes were warnings because they were part of the job. Indeed, the blacksmith had survived that event several times. Mike's injuries kept mounting, but the cameras missed more. Mike says he went to the Bahamas to make a shark suit or anything. It was 2004. Mike Rowe met stainless steel shark suit inventor Jeremiah Sullivan. It looked like a high-tech chainmail with microscopic holes. In shark-infested waters, the suit enables divers get chomped without being eaten. It was uncomfortable to feel every bite's pressure. The one Mike and Sullivan created involves lots of welding. "You resemble Lancelot," he joked. They agreed to test the suit the next morning after making it. A dry run was required. To avoid panic, the film crew wore shark suits to test underwater communications. "I want to ensure nobody absolutely shits the bed, right?" Mike says, "We're doing something wild." Leon, a TV Guide reporter, attended. Leon is essential soon, so remember his name. Mike breathed compressed air through a welder's shield or something. After someone got bitten in the back of the head a few weeks ago, Jeremiah bolted a cycling helmet onto the shark suit to prevent it. Mike descended thinking, "I can't believe we're doing this." His cameramen, skilled divers, waited 30 feet below. Jeremiah kneeled on the ocean floor at the bottom. Mike arrived down there and they tested communications. Nothing went wrong, and it was dark, so leave. Mike felt a strange chest constriction for the first time. His air was his, even though he had 45 minutes of air and had only been down 15 minutes. He ripped through 45 minutes in 15 because he was frightened, enthusiastic, and agitated. He breathed out, cleared his throat, and tried to inhale. Unfortunately, he couldn't. His last 60-foot breath was an exhalation. Mike was in trouble. He wore a massive steel shark suit without air. Additionally, he was 60 feet underwater with seconds of consciousness. Leon from TV Guide was paying attentively, but it was impossible to obtain a response quickly. Mike says Leon kneels next to me and notices something strange. Leon stared at Mike's gauge and shook his head when he discovered he was out of air. Leon instantly removed his respirator and tried to remove Mike's mask, but the bicycle helmet was put on top. Mike says you want oxygen when your heart is racing, you're 60 feet down, and your last breath is an exhale. Look up, and you can only see your boat's bottom 6 stories up. Mike was an airless anvil at sea. Leon grasped Mike with his right hand, saturated his buoyancy compensator, and they rose. Mike kicked hard since he knew he had little time. Mike Rowe's paradoxical script answer during the Q&A is intriguing. Directors say they don't want a script, but they do. Because Deadliest Catch is edited after filming, it must be scripted. However, Dirty Jobs works differently. Mike views the clip and chats to the image, which becomes the voiceover. However, field footage is unscripted. Fans wondered if Mike ever told producers, "No way in hell," but the answer is no. They turned down jobs before, but not because Mike was afraid or disgusted. The only duties they passed on were those they knew wouldn't be on TV, like corpse farm or embalming. "It worked out all right since work is larger than dirt," Mike said. "Sure, fart jokes and feces are funny, and they screw with every barnyard animal for laughs, but the show sells work, and people care about that." Mike said their average job takes 1 day. They used to film 20 hours a day and 2 days for a single narrative, but not anymore. Mike believes that if you can't convey the story in a day, don't tell it. Last was if the staff gets along as well as shown. Mike noted that the crew is important and was initially hard to sell for the show. To get them to work together, he had to progressively integrate them between actors and a Greek chorus. This is significant since Dirty Jobs shows the business of shooting. Dirty Jobs is worth watching since it reveals the crew, unlike most shows. Mike Rowe had news after 8 years of crawling in sewers, getting covered in animal excrement, and showing America the jobs no one else wanted to talk about. Not good news. Dirty Jobs ended. Every few months when the show was quiet, people panicked and emailed Mike to inquire whether it was canceled. The show would always return, he assured them for years. But this time was different. Mike learned Dirty Jobs was on permanent pause or canceled a couple weeks before publishing his blog entry. Mike waited to notify anyone because this wasn't just another show. It was personal. He couldn't imagine life without exploding toilets, poisonous snakes, farm animal calamities, and crap from every creature. The future didn't include additional Dirty Jobs episodes. Since Thanksgiving was approaching, Mike thanked the show's producers. Different stories exist about how Mike Rowe landed the Dirty Jobs job. A different variant. After being fired from QVC in 1993, Mike Rowe had a blank resume. To host Romantic Escapes on Discovery Channel, he traveled the world with a co-host, drinking wine in hot air balloons and staying at luxury resorts for a year. From there, Discovery helped him down to the sewers, where he spent 8 years joyfully wallowing through muck. Before Dirty Jobs, Mike made a little CBS San Francisco segment called Somebody's Gotta Do It. He thought it could be bigger, but networks disagreed. Reality TV in 2001 meant cash for prize games, criminals, and dogs attacking people. Mike tried for 2 years to market a show about average workers doing gross occupations, but nobody wanted it. Pilgrim Films' Craig Piligian filmed Mike harvesting bull semen and artificially inseminating a cow. Craig watched, claimed he could sell it, and did. Discovery renamed a pilot Dirty Jobs. Craig marketed a new style of TV and over 24 Dirty Jobs-based programming. Because Craig convinced a network to try. Mike thanked his team, including Dave Barsky, Doug Glover, Troy Paff, and approximately a dozen others that persevered with the show. No war, although some days felt like it. They swung from bridges, crawled through mines, swam with sharks, castrated sheep, moved gigantic cacti, and nearly died in the Arctic Ocean. Despite laughing, bleeding, throwing up, and bizarre jokes, they grabbed the film and returned home safely. Mike swore to remember their collective work as his brothers. He also acknowledged the hundreds of Americans who let cameras capture them, doing occupations most people never see. Mike called them the show's genuine stars. Despite appearances, the tale continued. Mike announced on Facebook in August 2018 and November 2019 that Dirty Jobs was being considered for a reboot. It was acceptable to him and producer Dave Barsky. They produced a spin-off called Dirty Jobs Road Trip, which launched in July 2020, when COVID-19 wrecked their intentions to record regular episodes. By November 2021, Discovery announced that Dirty Jobs would return with Mike Rowe as host. On Discovery and Discovery Plus, the show returned on January 2, 2022, and continued for 2 seasons before finishing on February 2, 2023. What do you do when your passion, the work that brought meaning to everything, disappears? Please comment.